Hey everybody, we're broadcasting from Toronto, home of the Blue Jays, Raptors, Maple Leafs, and Canadian psychic Robert Lindsy Milne. That's me. And welcome to my side of the crystal ball. We've got a star-aligned show for you tonight. Starting off with WWRS, What Would Robert Say? And my co-host, Lucia Marie Kloster from the Green Mountain area. I've got a feeling Lucia is going to be asking me, got something to do with love and hate and forgiveness and kind of stuff like that. So that's going to be WWRS. In the experts chair tonight from Toronto as well, Grandmaster astrologer, spiritual teacher, advisor, and genuinely wise man, Robin Armstrong. I've known Robin for many years. I knew more of him rather than knew him, just as the same for he with me. But tonight, Robin's going to be talking about the basics of astrology, as well as sharing his words of wisdoms, ways of thinking, and ideas. Quite profound. That's on the experts chair. And then, on the main event, Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, naturopathic healer, spiritual teacher, life coach, channeler, psychic, writer, and genuinely beautiful being is going to be with me on the main event. And but now, before we get started, I would just have a request. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. You can find us on any other major podcast site. If you would like to contact me personally, you can see me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and my website, www.robertlindsymilne.com. And by the way, I still do readings, and if you need one, I've got one for you. So just give me a call. Without further ado, starting in just a few moments, WWRS. Hey, Lucia, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Hi, Robert. It's nice to be back.
What's been going on in your life? Anything interesting happening these days?
I'm just settling into the autumn. Started to get a little
Yes.
cooler and the leaves are changing here in the Northeast. So
One of my favorite times of the year, autumn.
mine,
So I know with the way you think so much, you might have a question or two to
oh
ask
yeah.
me. What's been going on inside your mind these days?
All right. Hopefully we have more than 15 minutes for this one.
Okay.
In the news, there's a recent murder case that has been all over the news, all over social media. And I don't want to get into the details
Yeah.
of it, but it
Yeah.
certainly had me thinking about good and evil and love and hate. And,
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's so easy to hate someone who's so evil.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, I've been wrestling with how can anyone love such an evil person? And the other thing that's been going through my mind is how does anyone forgive someone who commits an unforgivable act of violence or murder?
Wow.
So
Sure.
that's been on my mind quite a bit lately.
Wow. That's quite a lot to have on your mind.
Yeah.
Um, well, let's talk about the first one. Feeling love for somebody that's done terrible things. Um, I'm not particularly religious. I haven't followed a specific religion, although my background is Christian. I've taken many different beliefs from many different religions, and I just want everybody to hear that I am in no way putting down anyone else's religious or spiritual beliefs. I'm just talking about things I think about, and no offense to anyone. So Jesus, the leader of the Christian church, Jesus Christ, said hate the sin and love the sinner. That's what he said. And from a child, I thought about it. Like it's been in my head. And in thinking about that, hate the sin, of course, you would hate what the guy or the woman did or the person did. But love them, it's really hard to do. When we think of it that way, one-dimensional. We're on this earth, we born, we live, we die. So thinking of it like that, where there's nothing else before or after, it's really hard to even like the scumbag, whether you could love, or such a vicious animal. So in order to understand that, I started seeing it from a different perspective, as we all have incarnations. So we all have past and present and future incarnations. And so if we just take it up a rung a bit, just take it up one rung. And there is a theory going around that I've heard on reincarnation, is that we create incarnations and we travel with a group of spiritual kindred spirits. If you think of a traveling active ensemble going from one town to the next town to the next town, each time going to a town, each actor taking on a character role in the play. And when they take on that character in the play, they can do things, and bad things and good things and in between things and all that. And each one of them has a role. When the curtain goes down and they get back on the train or the bus or whatever it is that they do, they guess them from one town to the next. Then they take on, when they get on that train, they take off the face paint. They take off their clothes, their costume, and then they put on their real self. And then they interact and they go to the next town. And then they all take on another role in another play from town to town. Now, if you stand back and say, oh, I can accept that as a theory of reincarnation, it's a possibility, prove me wrong. So there's a possibility. So doing it that way, standing back, and then saying, oh, we're all playing a role. And sometimes I get to be the evil demon, and sometimes I get to be the hero. Sometimes I get to be, Dudley Do-Right of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or Snidely Whiplash, his foe, right? Or I'll get to play, and then in another play, I'll get to play the Maid Marian that's always tied to the log, thrown on going to the sawmill, or tied up on the railway tracks, right? So each role could be a lifetime. And while we're in that lifetime, we can do all kinds of things. And then when it's over, we're having a beer or two in the parlor car as we're going to the next train, we can talk about how we acted. And so when we can see it in that light, hate the sin, absolutely. Love the sinner, because you're brothers and sisters, you're spiritual connected. And that makes it easier. And then the next part that I've been learning about recently is about treating people, even though you think they're bad or scum, treat them with dignity. Allow them to have their human dignity. It makes you feel a lot better. Because when you treat that being with dignity, you're not concentrating on hating that being. Now, love, hate the sin, loves the sinner. I learned a lot about that way of thinking when there was this infamous guy, I think it was in Milwaukee or Minnesota or in that area, where he would connect with gay men, take them to his house, kill them and eat them and cut them up. And he did it to a lot. Anyway, he got caught. When he was in court and going to prison, his father came to court every day and sat behind him in court. Here was this guy accused of killing and eating people. And there his father was standing beside him, or behind him actually in this case. And then when he was convicted, his father, I saw his father on TV being interviewed too. His father visited his son at the prison regularly. And you know, the interviewer was talking about, how could you do that? Like how could you be around him? And the man said, what my son did, I just don't understand how it could happen. I don't know how he could do such a thing. I'm horrified. He's my son. And I love him. And so he hated what he did, but he loved them. So it takes being evolved. It takes looking at things from a different level. And it takes choosing not to feel ugly and evil and bad yourself. What do you think about that?
That's a lot to think of, because when I think about the father,
Yep.
you know, it might be a little bit easier if it's your child or your brother or your
Sure,
sister,
of course.
you know them. And
Right.
I also believe that if you have lots and lots of information about that person before, you know, like their upbringing, maybe the forgiveness might be a little bit easier because you can understand.
That's an interesting thought. So you would see them as having the opportunity to defend themselves, whether they deserve to be treated with love.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So my thinking is it wouldn't have anything to do with that person and what they wanted, whether I felt love or not. So I would be treating that person with love, not for them, but for me.
Not for them, but for you.
Yeah. Because if I want to hate that person, I'll get in touch with the hatred that's inside me. And what I will do is I will spew it at that person, but it will come from me. And it will come from the part of me that has all those negative, bad feelings. And we all have them. Well, I don't, but you know, so, and we all have those. So from I don't like those feelings. Now you get a high. You get high by those feelings because it releases adrenaline.
Right.
So you can get an adrenaline high in that anger, in that hatred, in that evil yourself. And what you're allowing yourself to do is be influenced by that evil act.
Okay.
And you're allowing it to trigger in you those awful feelings that you have in you. You can choose to live there. Or you can choose to get into those loving feelings, which we all have and can feel. And that way, we take care of ourselves, we love ourselves. And when we're a loving person to ourselves, we often treat even the sleaziest ones with dignity.
So that the hate that we could feel for another person is
the hate we have in ourselves.
Yeah, would eat at us.
The hate that we have for someone else is the hate we have in us.
Wow. Wow.
And when we feel those feelings, we are feeling those in ourselves. And when we're feeling happy feelings, it's inside. When we're feeling sad feelings, it's inside. So all that we feel, and this is kind of like a step farther with about being in touch with your feelings and being psychic. It's a part of that awareness. and it comes from in you. And you have the choice. You can look at somebody and feel hatred, and you're going to be carrying it, or you can look at somebody and see there's something good somewhere about somebody. Almost nobody is absolutely 100% bad, evil. There is something. And what there is a sharing of being a human being and treating that being with dignity is honoring who you are as well. And it comes down to one of the things that I think of is a lot, and that's be kind. Mm-hmm. And to quote the Dalai Lama, be kind whenever possible. It's always possible. And we can feel good about that. Mm-hmm. And feel good in ourselves, or we can feel evil and hatred in ourselves. But if we do, we'll take those feelings home with us, and we'll share those feelings with those around us, whichever ones. Oh, your eyes are going like foggy again.
I know it's a lot to absorb. So
okay. All right. Well,
I'm also remembering a book I read over the summer. Hold on.
Okay.
And I think it's worth a reread for me.
Okay, what is it?
Other people might be interested in it. It's A Long Way Gone. It's a memoirs of a boy soldier.
Okay.
By Ishmael Bowe, I think has his name. And he was a child soldier that was like murdering people, and
wow.
And this group of people, a center that he ended up at, just embraced him literally.
Wow.
and the other soldiers and forgave them and treated them with dignity.
Wow.
And they talk a lot about the hate within themselves. Sure. And that high that you were talking about.
Yeah.
That's mentioned in here too. It's a fantastic book, and I think I'm going to reread it. I am going to reread it.
You're doing great.
It'll help me understand all of this a little bit more.
That was a lot of fun. There were some great questions. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's always nice to be here.
Okay. I'll see you.
All right, take care.
I've been looking forward to Robin Armstrong joining us in the experts chair, and tonight is the night. Robin Armstrong is a rather modest, humble Grand Master of astrology and a bunch of other things. I've known him for a while, like about 40 years, and I'm looking forward to talking to him about more things. Robin, welcome to my side of the crystal ball.
Thank you.
So how you doing these days?
Good. It's nice to be on your show.
This is kind of like a dream come true. When I heard, when I made the arrangement for this podcast, first person I put on the list that I wanted to be on the show was you. I think I sent you an email talking to you about it before we had actually started broadcasting. So I'm so excited. You've been an astrologer for, how long have you been an astrologer? Do you think of yourself as an astrologer?
It's my career, 50 years or more.
Yeah, me too. Oh, well, is that what you call yourself, astrologer?
Yeah, in astrology circles.
How did you find out about astrology?
Well, I had a vision. It's a funny story because I wasn't ever planning on being the astrologer. I was chemistry master.
Like I planned to be a psychic, right?
So I went to India. I ended up spending some period of time meditating in India. And at the end of my times meditating in India, I had these visions. I didn't even know they were
How old were you?
23, 24.
And until that time, like 23, 24, you'd never thought about astrology or doing anything? And you weren't getting visions and psychic stuff? You were just a chemist, studying chemistry?
No. I was a chemist. My family split up. I left home when I was a hippie traveling around for 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And then I ended up in India meditating to try and clear things up.
Okay.
So at the end of the meditation,
yeah,
I had visions. and I had visions that I couldn't sleep for 50 days. My mind was going up and waking up and waking up. I could lie down, but I couldn't turn off my mind. It was just keep opening up, and I didn't know.
Was this when you were when you were meditating in the artificial cave or the made cave?
Yeah.
You better explain that to people, what you're doing, how you know, because this is very special.
Well, when I went to India, I didn't have money. I just went across the country. I came out across Turkey, Iran, in Pakistan, into India, and I had no money. But within a half an hour, I ran into connection with a person who was known as a Mani Sadhu. He just spent 11 months alone in a cave, and I had met him, and he took me under his wing, and he sent me to his guru. And then I went into these things. So I went into these rooms 3 times.
And this was so this was like in India at that time where you made it?
68 and 69.
So I remember those years. So you went there and with a teacher,
I didn't know anybody. I just ran across it. It just happened randomly.
Okay. And you decided to meditate.
This idea said to me, before you can learn anything spiritual, you have to unlearn everything you think you know. And the simplest way to do that is go spend some time alone and be chanting the name of God and let it settle. And it made sense to me.
And how long did you do that for?
The first time I went in, well, it was 10 days the first time. Then they knew I knew I wanted to go further. So they sent me down to this guru, and I went down there, and then I went into a room again, and it was, I ended up, when I came out, it was 3 months I spent in the room, and I went from about 130 to 65 pounds when I came out, but I felt great.
Okay, so this room was a dark room?
Well, it's a room there's a light if you want to turn it on, but you're supposed to be sitting in the quiet. There's not much light, but the idea is to be alone and not be disturbed by the outside world and just be concentrating. Yeah, well, yeah, there's no, you're just alone. So you could, there's no music, there's no noise, you're alone to meditate. And it's non-denominational. It's a Hindu thing, but it's non-denominational. Different people, different religions have gone in there. But for them, they would chant. My chant was Hari Om, and you would just chant it and try and, you're supposed to be in there, you're supposed to be chanting. Okay. And so you try and chant as much as you can. And when you stop chanting, you're not chanting, you're supposed to pick it up again. So that's the mechanic that kept me together going through this for the 3 months. I'd been alone on a mountaintop, I'd been alone on a beach, I'd been alone in the woods, but I'd never been alone like that, like solitary confinement.
That's pretty alone.
But the difference is it's solitary confinement in a holy environment.
Right, okay.
So you're alone with your imagination, and the thoughts that come into your mind, that's your karma.
Okay.
How do you change your karma?
How do you do it?
So by getting to your heart, by getting to your spirit more.
Okay. Did that happen for you?
Yeah, I had visions it's still carrying me to this day. I didn't know they were straight. So the first time was 3 months. I came out, and then they sent me to a more isolated place in southern India. And then I went in the room there. And when I came out, I thought I'd been in for 6 months, and it turned out I was 13 months in this room.
Wow. And
then at the end of that, I came out and I went around southern India, met a few different saints and things. Then I went back into the room again for another 6-7 weeks. And then in that whole time, I had my visions and everything. And then I came back to Canada.
Wow. You weren't doing like acid or things like that. This was like a natural high for you. You were getting those visions.
This was to overcome those older things, get rid of the old, get things naturally instead of the old stuff.
Oh, okay. Can you do that now? Can you get into those visions and things like that at this age?
Yeah, you live in them.
Okay.
They're just, you have, if you get your heart centered.
Yep.
I have too strong of a mind. My mind thinks all the time, so I'm always having to fight it. By chanting, I counter my mind, and I'm able to get to my heart, which then guides my mind properly.
Okay, all right, I can see that.
It beats the worries of everything. What's happening in the world? Who's doing what? What's happening?
Right.
It gets rid of all that stuff.
Right. Okay.
So that at the end of that, I never, even then, I had visions of color and sound and things. It was too incredible to describe, but I didn't know it was astrology. I just was So like it was 2 years later, I came back. I was back here. I went down to California, and
So,
a man
but
did a chart for me.
you're a little faster than me. So while you were doing those meditations, mainly in the dark and definitely alone, you were getting visions, and
No, I only had the vision. I only had visions in the last 6 weeks.
Oh,
For the whole rest of the time, it was just you're just in your own alone meditating.
So it was in the last 6 weeks that you started having those visions, and it turned out to be a strong. So were you seeing planets and the connection with the planets? And
I did see it coming into the planets, coming back into the solar system, things like this. But it's on another level. So but it wasn't until I came back here and I went down to California and someone did a chart for me. Two things I realized. First, you mean I'm supposed to be like this? Oh my goodness. Was my first reaction. And the second was, oh, my vision is connected to this.
Okay.
And then I started, so I knew astrology from the inside, but I didn't know it from the outside. So then I started studying astrology, and I had to start studying and just know the technical sides and learn it. Wow. And then I started teaching it. Now, 50 years later, I'm still studying.
That's amazing. I'm really blown away. Now, I haven't heard this. Well, I sort of heard parts of this, but this is really brilliant, Robin. So I've asked a lot of people that have studied and study astrology, how they came about it. Nobody has come about it in such a glorious way.
Well, I used to think, wow, everybody, if all astrologers are like this, wow, it could change the world. My education has been not everybody comes at it in the same way. It's a language, and people use it differently.
So when somebody is interested in having an astrological chart done by you, what happens? What do you do?
Well, I get all the mechanics and things done. I see their character. I watch the timing in their life to get a time perspective for where they are. And then I'm kind of watching it based on what they're attached to in the world, and if there's any openings opening up to deeper things. There may not be. They may just have problems in the world they're dealing with. And some people are ready when they open up.
Okay. So my next question is, do you cast their chart and compare it with an ephemerate, or do you cast their chart, look at it, and then go into that special place that's...
I save my intuitions. I do the astrology to understand the time and the character and the psychological and the challenges of the life. It's the map of the ego in the world.
Yeah.
But it's not the map of the spirit.
Okay.
So I do all the astrology to understand the circumstances, the situation, why someone's coming to me, where they are. And I save my intuitions if there's a big decision or something deeper that has to be talked about. So if someone's open or something else comes, then I'll use the intuition, but I don't use it right off the top. Okay. I do the mechanical, basic, practical astrology, your horoscope, your character, where you are in time, what challenges are coming up, what are the circumstances you're having to deal with, how long they're going to last, when it's going to change. And some changes come up that are more intense than others. And those are the things that come up that are so extreme, they don't seem fair in this lifetime. They're really the stuff you didn't deal with from another lifetime, coming back that you're having a chance to work it out now. But these timings, the timings of when these things happen are set up in astrology. It's just like music, but it's not like you can predict it in advance. You see the timings, and you have to observe how someone's coming at it, where they're at, the level of consciousness they're at and going at it, to what kind of changes they could go through.
So the information that you have in your mind about astrology, coupled with your spiritual and intuitive way of thinking, is combined, and that's how you, because you've done my chart several times, and it's as fascinating watching you doing it as it is getting the reading itself. And I've always wondered, I'm thinking, is Robin doing this off the top of his head? Is he studying it? Like, where is it coming from? So that's why I asked that question.
Well, when you teach for 50 years, 5 days a week, and you're teaching 10 levels again and again and again, you master something by teaching more than you do by just learning it and doing it.
Yes.
So that's a lot of basics I have in me. There's a Muslim view that's very useful here. So the Muslims believe they believe the one God, but the planets are like spiritual beings. And they can be angels, or they can be genies or gens. So that if you're living properly, the angels bless you. And if you're not, you're stuck with dealing with the psychic gens and all the ups and downs that involves.
Right. Okay. All right.
So there's a challenge in how you're living up to your life and what you're attached to and what you're not in the process. And it's very difficult to know you have to observe where someone's coming from and where they're going to. Like, you can see someone can have a potential bad problem in their chart. Like, they might have a dishonesty in their chart, but you can't presume they're dishonest. They may have worked it through and it's come a spiritual teaching, and you have to observe to see. If you start observing and you see they're doing dishonest things, then you know, okay, then you get the key into that's the big problem.
That's brilliant.
Because there's not good or bad people. It's good and bad behavior, or good and ignorant behavior. We get stuck in things, and then how do we deal with it?
This is brilliant. I'm okay. I don't know the answer to that question or that statement, Robin. How do we deal with it? I'm not sure.
It's a mystery, and like life is a mystery. It's a miracle we live a day. Yeah. How gracious do we need to be? But still life has its cycles, its seasons, its turnings, and we go through them. We got to eat, we got to do basic things, and it puts us through a whole set of complexes and timings. And everybody's is unique. We come into this symphony and we play our little part of the symphony, and we want it to be important. Of course, billions of other people playing their part at the same time, and they want to be just as important.
What do people come to you for? What things do they come to you for?
Usually, you're either in the middle of a crisis. You think, if this is going to go forever, I can't deal with this.
Okay.
Or you're worried. Is this crisis really going to build up? Is it really coming?
Yeah.
Or is it really over? Is it really over? So you get a time perspective from astrology. It's starting with here. It builds up to a peak here and here and here, and then you finally get through this. So little crises happen every couple of hours. There's stuff happening with the moon but the big things in our life last for a couple of years, and they really we change as we go through these things, and the waves of those things are usually what you're working at with someone's chart. You see to see, are there any big crises going on? Our crisis times are set just like music. So if you have a big upset and your marriage is breaking up and you're 45, and if you hadn't been married, you still would have had relationships breaking up. It isn't because of that person. It's your timing, and there you are. It's easy to say that, but it's hard to live it, because it's easier to blame the other person.
Sure.
So how do you get back on track to you? When you're being in tune with your potentials of who you are, you're being the best you can, and you're living as harmoniously as possible, and you're helping other people, and you're a happier life. It works better. When you're not in tune, it starts escalating. You're not in tune, that starts building, and we get sick.
And when people get readings from you, do you help them get in tune?
Well, it's all about getting the time perspective on your life. Okay. If I'm lost, I'm feeling confused, I'm feeling lost. Right. If this is going to go on forever, I can't live with this. But don't worry, it's not forever. It's only for 2 years, or it's only for 2 months. It's different. Like, when you realize because we experience things and we magnify when they start to be difficult, we magnify how big they could be.
Right.
And we lose the sense of perspective. If you got right to God, you wouldn't need astrology. You're bypassing that, and you're getting right to the source.
Right.
But for those of us that are caught and working through it, you got a kid in school, you got things going on, you got all kinds of, you got to juggle, and you're trying to navigate through which way is the best way to go.
Robin, this has been a fascinating conversation. I'm really blown away by the sides that you shared with me today. I want you to come back and share some more. If people want to get in touch with you, how do they do it?
Okay, so the best way is you can go to the website, which has my monthly predictions.
Okay.
Simple little monthly predictions, but it's RA@iastro.com, IASTRO.com.
Okay.
And from there, you can get a link to my online store, to my other sites and stuff like that.
Perfect. And you're doing readings, and you're open to people contacting you to do.
Yeah, and I have a school of astrology that teaches this, that has a scholarship program even, that some people can apply if they don't have it, if they're not well off or something, they can apply and still get a scholarship to go study through the 10 levels.
Robin, it's been a delight. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's nice to see you.
Well, we were just talking with Robin in Armstrong in the experts chair, and now we're going to have a different focus. And my guest with me is Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, kind of like the miracle lady. And Dr. Kim McGeorge is a well-known naturopath, teacher, and spiritual advisor. Kimberly, so good to see you. Welcome to my side of the crystal ball.
Oh, I love this. Thank you so much for the invitation.
So, what does a naturopath do besides be natural and normal? Or is that true?
No, that's very untrue. That's the opposite.
Oh, okay.
Yes, anyone will tell you. But a naturopath is a choice, an alternative, an addition to Western or Eastern medicine. Bringing in energy medicine, bringing in, homeopathy, bringing in herbs and supplements. And
Can I just interject for a moment here?
Sure.
That's a really big word, homeopathy. What does a normal person, what does that mean to somebody that's walking down the street and never heard of homeopathy? What does that mean?
I actually think it means nothing, so I'm glad you asked me to explain it. To me, it's just the old school frequency medicine. So now we have genes and technology and MP3s, recordings that we distribute frequency. But we used to distribute frequency in little bottles of liquid. So to me, it's the old school energy medicine.
So that's where you would have a solution like maybe alcohol, and it's mixed with part of an illness or a little bit and shaken up, and then you take it. Is that that's what homeopathy is?
Absolutely. It's
okay. I never knew that.
Yeah, it's the energetic fraction of the whole that stimulates a bigger cure than the part.
All right. Okay, well, that solved a mystery to me. Now I know what homeopathy is. I interrupted you, though. Do you remember where you were before I rudely interrupted?
No, that's not all that we do. We just focus on the whole person. So if someone comes to us with already a diagnosed thing and they're on medication, we pull the lens, back a little further, and we say, kind of like what you do, what's going in the personal life and the mind and the spirituality and the energy and the emotions, and how can we get that sorted to be more compatible with homeostasis, balance, and healing.
Okay. What balancing?
Well, homeostasis just means bringing to center, bringing back to original blueprint of the body and the energy field.
Oh, so homeo, does that relate something to being Homo sapien?
Absolutely, balancing the human. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So now wow, this is really getting interesting. I've heard these words, I just didn't know what they meant. And I think a lot of people are like that too. They just hear them, but they don't know what they mean. Oh, that's fascinating. So you do that with people. You homeopathy them. Is that?
Actually, I scan them with technology, basically. Like I said, homeopathy is kind of the
right.
And I do it the new way, kind of hopefully with the same result or even better result. So I use technology that's similar to a CAT scan or an MRI machine is the same, or an ultrasound. Most people are familiar or have a vague idea how those things work with sound waves and frequency.
Mm-hmm. So that brings up an interesting thing I'd like to ask. So you did I'm not quite sure what you call it, a scan, a body reading for me. And you took a picture of me on the screen. I'm not sure if I saw that, but the picture I made. But and as the viewers know, it's obvious that we have a personal connection. Kimberly hired me last year to give readings to her graduating spiritual classes. So that's sort of how we met. The one person that I had trouble doing a reading for on that you arranged with me. One person was unable. I was unable to read, and then I met that person offline, and gave it a try. Couldn't, and then that person booked a reading with me, and we tried 2 or 3 times. It couldn't connect. So, and she was, but she also said to me that she was somebody that others couldn't tune into either. Then she was about to go to a class with your class, and she hadn't done her homework or needed somebody to pose or something, and she asked me would I, and I agreed. And she took a picture, a screenshot.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Okay, now that screenshot, when I saw it where it was measuring the energy or identifying energies around me. Okay, now let's go back to 1975, the very first psychic fair in Toronto. And the headlines of that psychic fair was Robert Lindsay Milne, that headliner, and a guy by the name of Komar. And he was a world record holder for laying on a bed of nails and a bunch of other things. So we were the 2 headliners, and something introduced at that fair at a booth. I'll never forget. Alfred Ward had it, and it was something called Carillion photography. And this is what we did. So it was a machine. No, it was a camera that was like an old Polaroid. You know the old Polaroid? Okay, it was like that, and there was a black sleeve, and you'd put your hand in the black sleeve, put your finger on something, they would take a picture, and then when it would get developed, it would be a picture of your finger with the energy around it, and people were going, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. Is that the 2021 version of what I saw in 1975?
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. They still have those machines similar
Do they?
to experience. Oh yeah. They're still expensive. And so now it's wonderful. I have a very tiny app that you can do that for. I mean, we'll give it to you free if you say you heard us on Robert's show. So, I mean, we've gone from, thousands and thousands of dollars to virtually pennies for the same technology. Isn't that interesting?
Well, when she showed me that picture, I understood what you were doing, and I saw it from the very beginnings when it was introduced into Canada in 1975. Isn't that fabulous? So,
yeah, that's really neat. It is.
So when you do, so is that a big part of your work, using that? Oh, okay. I thought it was. All right. All right.
It's a regular part. It's a regular, daily, small part of my work. Put it that way.
Okay.
Every time you get a scan from me, you're going to get, whether you want it or not, you're going to get an aura picture and an aura interpretation. And it's interesting because...
Did you say aura or aura?
Yeah,
Okay.
Aura,
Okay.
Aura, it depends what country or world you're from, how it's pronounced. But you're going to get that picture that the woman took of you and the interpretation with it. And what's interesting about aura pictures is, and you'll understand this, Robert, some people might see colors, but I can see the layers. So it gives me a lot more information than if you just had a paper telling you what the colors mean, I can see way more than that.
Sure.
In an aura picture. And it's just a nice standard, because sometimes I feel generous and I'll go ahead and balance you out. I'll go ahead and work on healing and running frequencies through your field, and we'll get you to a better aura picture, and then I'll send you that. But I'm not always that.
Is that a big part of your work these days?
Scans are a huge part of my work. They're not the main part of my work. I would say the main part of my work is writing the software for the technology, writing the frequency sets, writing the panels to evaluate people for other practitioners to use, as well as teaching. That's my main part of my work, I would say.
You developed
that?
A lot of scans. You developed that process? Wow.
I write programming, and I've also worked on other outside projects for big companies. There's a product called Halo that's a pulsed electronic magnetic field machine that I've also wrote the frequencies for. So I also do outside projects. Frequency is my thing. That's my main thing.
So that machine, or these processes, you take a picture, and that can help you tune into that other person's frequency or vibration. It gives you clues. Is that how it happens?
It's a great way of it kind of opens up, just like you have your own methods of opening up or going into or looking at someone's energy and field. That's my way of entering my process or my time with them. Yes.
So when you do that, are you more focused on the physical body, or are you focused on? Okay, you're answering my question. All right. So
no, I'm focused on the energetics in the outer energy field as it relates to the physical body, but really the way I work is a lot of people continue to help you with your physical body. Not a lot of people can tell you what your subconscious programming and beliefs are, because it's subconscious.
Right.
But the beautiful thing about you and anyone is that you know what your subconscious programming is, even if you don't know what your subconscious
programming. You certainly know that it's there. Right.
Right. You know that it's there, but the frequency is still coming out of you. And also we can look at your life and see it in, of course, your choices, decisions, and actions, and how you relate to everything. But we don't need to do all that. We just get it directly from you, the frequency. We just read all the frequencies, your mood, your emotions, your mind processes, your relationships. We can even tell you, people are all like, am I being taken at night by the ETs? We can tell you that. We can tell you if you're deceiving yourself. We can tell you if you're deceiving others, even though you probably know that. So I always say to people, if you knew what we could tell, you would never let us do it. Kind of like you, Robert. We can see to the core,
Well, yeah, I also say to people myself, because they get nervous, I also say, well, you can, stop this at any minute, or you can prevent it if that is what.
Say that. You do really empower people to feel comfortable.
Yeah, well, it's really important. Well, you just can get more for the people that you're working for when they're feeling safe. That's the big thing.
I want to say something about you, which is, I know
thank
this
you.
is my
Well,
show.
Maybe I said thank you a bit too soon.
I really appreciate about Robert that I find very unusual in the whole spiritual / psychic world is Robert is exceptionally honest. You just heard him tell a story that was a true story, where he was very ethical, and if he cannot connect with you, he's not going to take your money or say you have to pay more, or you have to pay again, or you have to pay triple the amount, or you have to buy a package. He's very honest. And even if he's in the middle of a reading, I've seen him stop and say, I am not able to give you my best. I am tired, or I'm getting a headache, and so I just want to say, I want to applaud you for being ethical and caring more about the integrity of the work and our field than you do about money. It's very unusual. So Robert's a straight shooter, and I highly commend that. So sorry to take over your show.
Thank you. Where that came from is my biological family, my family of origin, they have rejected what I do, or from the very beginning. Some of my extended family now, they think they're psychic, but that's only because, I got more successful. I wanted to prove to my father all those years ago that what I was doing was valid. So I just gave an absolute guarantee to anybody that I did a reading for. If it isn't as good as you think or want, like, give me back your reading, give me back the CD, I'll give you back your money. And it was because I wanted to prove my credibility to my father.
It's interesting that that's the motivation, but it definitely serves your customers,
yes,
and your clients.
Right, that's right.
It's very
that's
much
right.
in integrity. So I just want to say I appreciate
Thank
that
you.
so much. And I have to tell you guys, so Robert casually mentioned, kind of casually, that I invited him to speak to my group, but my group knows that I don't casually invite anyone. And the fact is, over 13 years, Robert is one of the only people that has been allowed that level of intimacy into my longtime clients' lives. So I think very highly of
Thank you, Kimberly.
Robert.
Thank you. I think very highly of you too. And when I got my podcast, for sure, you had to be one of the early ones to be on to help me with the foundation. So thank you for talking about me. It's very special, well, to me anyway. And so now you say that using the camera and things like that is a big part, but not really a big part. There's other things that you do. So obviously we talked about your spiritual classes. What other things do? You got your spiritual classes, which you probably wouldn't qualify for. But what do you do?
That's so funny. Well, I make I make YouTube videos kind of for free, kind of like what you do. I talk about little subjects that I think would interest the masses, not just awake or conscious or people interested in this kind of thing. I really like to educate, awaken. More than that, I think I'm a truth teller. I like to, I'm kind of a catalyst. I like to make you think. I believe that each one of you are the most powerful being in your life, and that most wisdom comes from inside you, not outside of you. And occasionally you might need a mentor or a friend like Robert or I to remind you of who you are. But I think I'm here to point you back to you. I think that's ultimately what I strive to do in everything I do. Like I said, I do quite a bit with writing, back-end programming to help. I teach other people how to use this technology. I create new technology. What else do I do? In my spare time, I have come a long way away from this work, but I used to work in the paranormal as a medium, and clear houses and land. I still do some of that. I still do some work with human discarnates. I'm not sure if you do.
When you teach your class in spirituality, what do you do? Like how do you teach that?
What am I teaching on? Well, like the class you were talking about was an advanced aura class that was teaching the practitioners how to read auras in a very advanced way. That was that particular class.
Okay.
I'm teaching remembering groups right now. We have 4 remembering groups, which is techniques. We're trying to come at them. That's what you are part of. We're trying to come at you with all different kinds of energies to awaken the memory of your souls. That's another thing I do. I have monthly groups that I just, like you, Robert, I teach what I feel is appropriate for the energy of the time and what people need to hear now. So we do all different themes. Right now we're talking about kind of a more bizarre subject. We're talking about the difference between computer simulation, clones, because I have family that works in human cloning, and real.
Really?
Yeah, really, they get paid. Everybody's like, no such thing as human cloning. I'm like, well, I know a lot of people that are like getting paychecks for that right now. So they're really but so I talk about weird and bizarre things.
So you've got family that could take my DNA and make an exact replica of Robert Lindsay Milne, but not the life experiences of this Robert Lindsay Milne, but everything else would be identical. Is that correct?
The start would be identical, yes.
Okay.
First, you would end up, as you pointed out, with a very different being.
Yep.
Because of
Different life experience.
And
like,
they actually do that with pets too. Like if you wanted right now, and it's not that expensive. I think it's under $5,000. Well,
really,
relatively for what you're getting, it's not that expensive. It's not hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. For under a couple $1,000s, I think now you can get your pet replicated. But if you think that pet is going to behave,
it's not the same. It's not the same.
Thank you for pointing that out.
They're not the same because it's a part of me. Whereas I am a part of something else that's that makes me spiritual, as well as my life experiences. So I could, in theory, recreate a little Robbie and raise that little Robbie in a spoiled. All the things that I would have imagined I would have wanted when I was that age, when I was getting the opposite. Like now, that being that would come from me would not be like me. It would look like me, but the life experience would be totally different.
Right, and if you study personology, which you guys can look that up, the study, which Robert has like everything. You can't stop Robert, but but the study of personology also says that the looks at probably after by the time he hit 3 or 4, he'd start to look different for you because his personality would already be different, and by the time he reached your age, you probably wouldn't even recognize him as yourself.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. That's fabulous. That's really interesting. Wow, what a concept. So how close are they to like making a human?
Oh, they've done it by the hundreds of thousands.
What happens? How does that being that's been created from someone's DNA, where does the soul come from? We don't know.
Yeah, they don't have. Okay, when they're created in the lab, they do not have souls. It's not like they pull, oh, let's do the yellow soul, let's stick that in it. No, they don't have souls. They don't have a soul workshop or shelf. But this, I believe that a lot of them become walk-ins, either deliberately walk-ins or something. Avatar was made, or a discarnate walk-in. I'm sure empty containers don't stay empty around here very often. I don't believe. That's just my belief. I'm sure they do have a soul that walks in at some point, maybe not as a baby, but and you also have to realize some of the ways they clone is they clone full adults. So that clone would look more like you. They clone you at 23 or at 27. They clone into the adult, not some of the clones are born as a baby and then they grow up. As you pointed out, some of them are made adult, if that makes sense. So
really?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
So you can clone a person to when they're to about 23 years old from my DNA. So it would be what I was at 23, and then. So would they be starting at 23 with no life experience, like an empty brain, and they start like that? Oh, so you have to learn.
They have to be programmed to understand the world. So then there's programming that goes in with it's a mess. There's a lot to it.
How do they have a conscience? Or do they?
Good question. These are the problems and dilemmas and moral questions and spiritual questions of cloning, right?
The questions that I'm asking you are ones that have just come to my mind as you.
A lot of them. Unfortunately, I don't know if you want to go negative here, but a lot of them are being used in nefarious ways. So you can get different levels for under 10,000. You can get a clone and you can use it for not good things. The elite use them for sex and things like that. So
I was thinking in terms of using them for
and military applications.
suicide bombers.
Military applications and intelligence agency applications order their clones. And the sheiks and the very rich people, they order them. They order clones for servants. They order clones for horrible things. They order clones for good things. They order clones to marry.
Right. Of course.
It's like a robot.
Is that really going on? Is that really happening? Really?
A lot of, I mean, I don't know if you do, Robert, but a lot of the people that will be listening or watching the show have clones in other parts of the world. You know that doppelganger thing? The doppelganger thing isn't about what people think, which people have different opinions on what doppelganger means. Usually,
isn't that the mustache? No, okay, that's a different doppelganger.
There's an exact replica of you. Someone will say,
"Oh yeah, a doppelganger," right?
And they say, "Oh my gosh, you look exactly like I did at your age," or "You look exactly like me," and they get out pictures. They even have a website. I wish I knew what it was. You can type it in and see the people. It's really crazy that match you closely around the world, but a lot of people have clones. As a matter of fact, there's catalogs where they look through, and some of you guys are in the catalogs. You don't know you are, but you put yourself in the catalogs, but we won't go into all that, Robert. It might be too racy for this show.
So one of the things that I was thinking about just before we started talking was about sperm donors.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I was thinking about children that were the result of artificial insemination, and not knowing their father.
Sure.
And I was just thinking about all that kind of stuff. Maybe it was a Father or Dr. Phil show or something that triggered it.
Okay.
But I was thinking about that, and now you're talking about the cloning. I really never. That's really a surprise to me.
Really?
I'm kind of innocent,
With an artificial womb, so it's just the same as a womb, but replicated not in a woman. And it's the same way you've heard or read those articles how men now can have babies. They alter the men's bodies so you can have it, by the way, you guys, but carry the babies. It's similar to that. And I'll tell you, Robert, if I had known about human cloning, I think I would have just said, I'm
going to have 3 kids of my own, right?
I would have liked to keep my body, and they can grow up in the thing until they come out, and then I'll take care of them.
That's really really fascinating. That
it'll be coming out. Everyone will know in a couple of years. They're not hiding it as much. They're giving a lot of hints about it.
Okay.
It'll be commonplace. In 5 years, it won't even be a topic of conversation. It'll be so well known,
Oh, wow. It's one of the reasons I love doing this podcast. I'm just finding out so much new information. It's so great.
I love it. Oh, that's great.
I'm also amazed at how quickly the time has gone. It seems like we just started talking, and what that means is you have to come back another time and do some more talking and sharing. And if people want to get in touch with you, Kimberly, where and how?
Really easy. Secrettoeverything.com is your easiest way. We have a form on there that if you fill it out, it'll go to
Secret to Everything?
Secrettoeverything.com.
Wow.
The TO is spelled out in the middle. And we have a contact form. There's free classes. I have a YouTube channel, Secret to Everything by Kimberly McGeorge. Serene Wellness on Twitter, Kimberly McGeorge, and Secret to Everything on Facebook. Or just type me in Google. I'm old, so I'll come up.
Oh yes, so and my producer has a lot of information about you too, and we'll be putting that up.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so kind.
What a delight seeing you. Thank you, Kim. It's been great.
Thank you so much.
Wow, that certainly was one doozy of a show tonight, and I'm so thankful that you were here to see it. Before I say goodbye, though, I have a request. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. And incidentally, subscriptions, as they say, are free. So just press that button, because we need you to press that button. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, and any other podcast site. I'd also like to thank Lucia Marie Kloster from the Green Mountains. Thank you for those inspirational questions. I'd also like to thank Robin Armstrong, Grand Master Astrologer, Meditator, as well as an astrological teacher and instructor. In the main event, Dr. Kimberly McGeorge, naturopath, healer, teacher, spiritual channeler, and many, many more. Thank you, Dr. Kim. And now, just before I go, I'd like to say, be good, be safe, and above all, always be kind. Good night, everybody.